أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه، ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. إنه من يهده الله فهو المهتد، ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة، وخلق منها زوجها، وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام، إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. كل ضلالة في النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي، يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. My dear respected and beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, verily and truly all praise is due to Allah. We seek Him in forgiveness. We seek Him as He is the master of all, the master of our hearts and all of our affairs. He is the one our hearts seek Him. Before each beating moment, they seek His permission to beat one more time, and again and again and again. We seek Allah in refuge of ourselves, of the evils and the consequences of our actions and of our souls. We seek refuge in Allah from all that He has created. I bear witness with every fiber in my being that there is no deity worthy of worship except for Allah Jalla Jalaluh. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, may the peace and blessings be upon our messenger, is the last and final messenger. My dear brothers and sisters, we are reminded week in and week out that whomsoever Allah guides, if Allah has guided you to the straight path, there is nothing and no one, no impediment, no obstacle that can guide you astray or misguide you. And whomsoever Allah guides astray, there is nothing and no one, no guidance except for the guidance of Allah that can guide you. My dear brothers and sisters, we begin by praising Allah for giving us the opportunity to see another Friday yet again. What a blessed day is the day of Friday. And in this blessed month, the month of Shahrullah, the month of Muharram, the month of Muharram, which has been doted and noted as Shahrullah. Why? For many different reasons that we will go over in the khutbah today, inshaAllah. But the primary focus that I want to emphasize today is what do we do in our times of struggle and our times of need, in our times of anguish, in our times of pain, in our times when we are tested and we feel like there is no way out. You see, it is almost customary that when we are tested, our iman drops. Because the shaitan in those fleeting moments comes to us and puts in our ears that these are difficult times. Why did this happen to me? This is a very common first question that we have in our minds and almost in our hearts. May it only be in our minds, Ya Rabb. Why is this happening? What is going on? And at times it is day after day after day. So much so that they have created proverbs behind this. What do they say? When it rains, it pours. But you see, the emphasis here, the emphasis is on what we are thinking, what we are feeling. Because not a single one of us is just coasting through life without challenges or trials or tribulations, without the questions in our minds, without the doubts that we may feel or have. But you see, it is imperative for us to remember quickly who is the one who is khayrul makirin, who is the best of planners, who is the one who has put in front of us these trials and tribulations, obstacles and speed bumps and impediments, so that we may do what? Turn to Him, Jalla Jalaluh. We are talking about Allah. You see, Allah, when He loves His slave, He tests him. He tests him. And who was tested more than the prophets of Allah? Who had a higher challenge than the prophets of Allah? Who were ridiculed, abolished and exiled, threatened, attempted assassinations outside the prophets of Allah, almost on a daily basis. And we learn about this in the Quran time and time and time again. That when they came to a people, they were told, they were said about them, these are magicians. هَذَا إِلَى سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. This is just magic. They want to put wools over our eyes so that we may follow. What about the religions of our forefathers and our fathers? What of them? You see, my brothers and sisters, if you take the basic idea, the very basic idea of following your fathers and your forefathers, just take it as, zoom it all the way in. When you have an issue, was your father not one of the first people you spoke to about it? Was your family or your friends, your close system, not your first marja', your first foundation? Oh, I have this issue. Who do you call first? You're going to call somebody that you know will pick up. And so, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam came with the Risala, of course they would have a shock. But you see, our deen has taught us that we have to love our prophets and his Lord even before we love our parents. Why? Because they were sent to us as the guide. And so when we have a trial and tribulation, yes, it is important to have a support system. But the foundation of our support system is what? Allah. Allahu Akbar. What a mercy is this? What a mercy is this? That when something bad happens to you, you turn to who? Allah. Yes, your support system may have a solution for you, but it comes by the will of who? Allah. This is what our deen teaches us. And in the days of Muharram, we have one of the most blessed days of the entire year. The day of Ashura, the 10th day. Ashura is the 10th day of Muharram. And if you look back on history, and we'll focus on our two prophets today, the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Prophet Musa, who was mentioned over 130 times in the Quran. 130 times in the Quran. And the trials and tribulations he went through with Fir'aun and Haman. And what did he do? And how did he navigate? There are 4 or 5 surahs in a row that repeat the surah of the qissa of Musa, the story of Musa. And what did he do? You see, my brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us so that we may turn to Him, and has given us the tools and the resources to succeed. He has given us everything that we need in order to come out triumphant. Look at our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Gaza and in Rafah and in Sudan and in Yemen. You have seen the videos. Where are their hearts? Allah is with us. Allah is with us. Even the children, what do they say? I will tell Allah what you did to me and my family. Allah is my witness. Allah sees all. It is fundamental. It is at our core. And when something happens to you, you turn to who? Allah first. In that moment of trauma, of confusion, of anguish, you may lose it for a moment. We have to be realistic. But if you make it a habit that every time something happens, you have the dhikr of Allah on your tongue, wallahi, it becomes easy. You stub your toe, astaghfirullah. You bang your shoulder, astaghfirullah. Alhamdulillah. You turn to Allah and you seek Him. Ya Allah, I know this is for something better. What am I going to do? What will come after it? Help me, Ya Allah. Guide me, Ya Allah. And the day of Ashura was commemorated and is a day that we fast because it was the day that Nuh was saved from the flood, where he was put on Mount Judi with his ship. And it was the day that Musa alayhi salam had taken Bani Israel and they fled. And they are being chased by the army of the Pharaoh. Imagine in your own community, you are being chased by every single person around you. Chased. And their intentions are clear. They want to torture you and tear you limb by limb, and they want you to eventually die at their hand. Their intention is very clear. And you are fleeing, you are running, you are trying to escape, and you reach a dead end. You reach, as we see in the movies, an alleyway. You have nowhere to go. As Musa alayhi salam reached the Red Sea in front of him. The Red Sea is in front of him, and behind him is the army of the Pharaoh, who outnumber them with their spears and their swords ready to kill. And the people, they say to Musa, Ya Musa, it is done. we are finished. And his response, the iman and the humility of Musa is incredible. And he says to them, no. Allah is with us and He shall guide us. Allahu Akbar. He shall guide us. He didn't say, let me try to figure this out. What do we have here? We can swim. There's no boat. No. He sacrificed and submitted himself entirely for the will of Allah. Think about that. If Allah willed that Musa would be killed in that moment, was he not on the haqq? Was he not righteous? Was he not preaching the truth? Was he not spreading the word? He was. And he could have been martyred. But no. It was the miracle of Allah to save him and Bani Israel. And so he took his staff and he hit the water, and the water split. And there are some narrations that say the water split in 12 different corridors. But the water split nonetheless. If you think about water and its properties, if you take water and pour it on any surface and you try to split it, there's still some residual, yes? It's still wet. But you see, Allah Jalla Jalaluh in His perfection made it entirely dry. So that when they crossed the Red Sea, they weren't picking up their feet out of the sand and the mud. No! They were able to swiftly cross. Swiftly get across. And when Fir'aun and his people reached, it was shut. But it was too late for Fir'aun and his people. Can you imagine seeing the Red Sea split in two? After you denied this so-called magician, alayhi salam, astaghfirullah al-azim, and you wanted to mutilate him. And this, my brothers and sisters, is one of the best examples that we have of the taqwa and tawakkul that the Prophet Musa had in Allah Jalla Jalaluh. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على حبيبنا نبينا المصطفى وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters, our deen is so positive and optimistic, it gives us hope at every turn. It gives us hope at every turn. It is not our job or our responsibility to decide the fate of others. Rather, we are the authors of our own stories. Every action that we take is by our own hands, our own eyes, our own tongues, our lips and our ears and our noses. The circumstances by which we put ourselves in are by our own accord. Think about that. We are the masters of our own destinies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written everything. Every single possible decision you can make, He has written it. Whether you turn right or left, whether you go up or down, it's been written. And He has left us with the choice. And do we use that choice to turn to Him or not? Let's take a simple example. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was almost assassinated in his bed as he slept, Angel Jibreel came to him and said, flee, it is time to go. And so he went to Abu Bakr and he said, Ya Abu Bakr, it is time to go. And Abu Bakr, in his humility and patience, he says, As-suhba ya Rasulullah, am I coming with you, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, yes. And so they packed their things and they left through the back door. And Ali was left in the bed of the Prophet. And they went to the cave and they sat in the cave waiting. And Quraysh was on top of them. Quraysh was on top of them. All they had to do was look down and they would see Abu Bakr wa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is the second time in the Quran that Allah illustrates that He is with. You see, Allah mentions many times, Inna Allaha ma'a. Allah is with. Allah is with those who are patient. Allah is with those who give in sadaqah. But in an actual context or instance, this is one as well as the one of Musa, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells Abu Bakr, do not worry, do not be scared. Allah is with us. And again, think to yourself, is the Prophet of Allah not in the right? Has he not done his job in يبلغ الرسالة, to give and to acknowledge and to have people understand, to preach the message? But no, there is a higher wisdom here at play. So ask yourself, that when something happens to you or something is about to happen to you, are you in the right? Are you in the right circumstance? Have you done everything in your power to attain the taqwa of Allah Jalla Jalaluh? Now there's a very fine point here that I don't want to be misunderstood. Because in our nature and the shaitan, when something bad happens to us, we immediately think to something bad that we did that we're being punished for. We do not have this knowledge. Let me be very clear. We do not have this knowledge. That knowledge rests with Allah and Allah alone. It is Allah who deems what we are rewarded for and what we are punished for. It is Allah, not us. But it is in our power to do everything we possibly can to attain the pleasure and the taqwa of Allah Jalla Jalaluh. And so the next time something happens, or what we are experiencing now that is bad or not good for us, that we may think is bad or not good for us, the first thing we must do is turn to Allah. And we must ask Allah, just as Musa did, for His guidance. Sayahdeen, Allah will guide. And you see, He says it in a tense where He is expecting it. This is point number 2. The second point is that we should always, my brothers and sisters, think positive about what Allah has blessed us with, not the negative. You understand the point here? It is not meant for us to decide our fate or judge our circumstances. No, it is our job to act on them and turn to Allah and expect good from Allah. But we must also, point number 3, understand that there is a consequence for the sins that we may commit. Whether it is now or later, we don't know. But there is a consequence. And you see, Allah in His infinite mercy can forgive us all for what we have done. So we ask Allah to forgive us. We ask Allah to open up our minds and our hearts, to bless us and guide us, and do not leave us with our eyes closed and our hearts shut. We ask Allah to open up our hearts to accept Islam in its fullest capacity, to submit to His will, to seek His pleasure. We ask Allah to grant us mercy so that we may be merciful. We ask Allah to open up the doors of His mercy upon us, the doors of His rahmah and His maghfirah, of His forgiveness. We ask Allah to open up the doors of His rizq and to bless us with wealth so that we may give for His sake. اللهم اهدنا وعافنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين وأعز الإسلام والمسلمين وانصرهم يا رب العالمين وفرج همهم وفرج كربهم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا حبيبنا نبينا المصطفى وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وقوموا إلى صلاتكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
Remember your brothers and sisters في فلسطين وغزة ورفح and in every corner of the world where they are oppressed and occupied. استووا استقيموا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. My brothers and sisters, just a simple reminder, inshallah. The 10th day of Ashura is meant to be fasted. Rasulullah ﷺ instructed us to fast on this day, and he encouraged us to fast either the day before or the day after. because the Jews also fast on this day. So we fast the day before or the day after. So you fast the 9th and the 10th, or the 10th and the 11th, inshallah. And the reward for doing so is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive all of your minor sins for the previous year. So inshallah, the 10th day is next Tuesday. So I encourage you to fast Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan. Shaykhna ma'akum.
Our brother Jamil